Baby Reindeer. Martha. Part 10. Conclusion. Hello, I'm H.G. Tudor, and thank you for joining me for the conclusion of the detailed analysis into Martha. Although we now know that there's a lady called Fiona Harvey who has outed herself as being the person on which Martha is based, I'm still going to refer to her as Martha, just for the sake of consistency in this conclusion. As you know, with my work, it's based upon examination of individuals with a view to explaining behaviours in respect of narcissism and psychopathy. For the purpose of doing this, I divide people into those who are narcissists and psychopaths, those who are narcissistic but not narcissists, those who are normal, and those who are empaths. As I explained at the beginning, it is possible for people to be non-narcissist and have some other condition associated with that, which might cause them to behave in a particular way. For instance, you might have somebody who's normal but has post-traumatic stress disorder. You could have somebody that is an empath that has OCD, for instance. We're going to be determining what Martha is based upon the evidence that we have been looking at. The analysis of Martha is unusual as it's based on two main foundations. Firstly, the Netflix series Baby Reindeer, and secondly, the information that has come to light in real life by way of pre-existing information about Fiona Harvey and also her reaction to the series. With regard to the first foundation, caution has to be exercised for the following reasons. Although it is described as a true story, it is the recollection and retelling through the eyes of Richard Gadd, which means it is susceptible to conscious and unconscious reframing. Secondly, aspects will have been altered to suit story development, character arc, basically to make things more dramatic, to elicit emotional reactions. An example of that is that at the end of the series, Gadd is alone in a bar and he realises that the drink that he's ordered he can't pay for. And therefore the barman says, "It's okay, it's on me," giving Gadd the realisation of, well, we've gone full circle, because that's how it all started in relation to an act of charity by him as a barman towards Martha. I don't think that necessarily happened, and I think that has just been added in with a bit of artistic license to bring matters full circle. Thirdly, this isn't a story being told by a neutral third-party observer who has gathered the facts from all of the parties. And fourthly, we haven't had any input from Martha, Fiona Harvey. Her input has come after the airing of the show. I think it would actually have been more accurate to describe Baby Reindeer as a memoir, rather than holding it out as an entirely true story. This isn't to suggest, of course, that it's made up, far from it, but rather to reflect the points that I've made above. Nonetheless, this is the evidence that has been presented to us, and this is what's the evidence that the analysis is based upon. It's clear that Martha is somebody who is mentally ill. But what is this illness? Martha shows a rampant sense of entitlement. She intrudes Donnie's life by turning up at his workplace, his home, bombarding him with 41,000 emails, hundreds of hours of voicemails. She attacks his ex, attacks his girlfriend, Terry, attacks Donnie himself, contacts his parents, smearing him. All of this demonstrates a sense of entitlement to behave this way, that she can do as she pleases, and also, of course, demonstrates an absence of emotional empathy for all of the aforementioned parties affected by her behaviour. She has no sense of boundary recognition. She goes where she wants, walking into the rear yard of the pub to find Donnie, bursting into the pub even when she's been barred. She sends emails incessantly, calls who she wishes, she says what she wants. She sees no boundary between her and Donnie and other people. Remember the comment she made about wanting to unzip people and get inside them. She turns up at the comedy club and interrupts his act. There is questionable accountability on her part. She denies repeatedly that she stalked Donnie. She tells lies. She deems it inappropriate to invade people's lives, including Donnie, Donald Dewar, the MP and his wife. Yet she did plead guilty to the stalking and harassment charges, which could be construed as demonstrating some form of accountability, although, of course, we are not privy to her decision-making process in that regard, and it might be, for instance, that she simply did this because it was seen as the most effective way to perhaps reduce a sentence, and it was done for self-serving purposes. She exhibits considerable grandiosity. She regards herself as a big-time lawyer despite never having qualified as one. She purports to have important political contacts when she doesn't. She claims that she owns several expensive properties when she doesn't. She talks about having a busy workload, yet spends all day in a bar talking to Donnie. She's prone to exaggeration. She engages in monologues when she's with Donnie or in sending him voicemails. All of this is representative of the exhibition of grandiosity on her part. She's haughty. She's dismissive in relation to Donnie when she regards him as having two-timed her. She lacks patience with him at times. She's repeatedly rude to people, shouting out at people in the street, involving them in her business when they aren't interested. She is manipulative. She clearly flatters Donnie in the initial stages akin to love bombing. She lies. She regularly triangulates, uses physical violence, pity plays. She smears, belittles, denies. She provokes, she blame shifts, she projects, she uses insults. She brings up the past, makes false accusations, and uses vulnerability against the victim along with many and repeated threats. She shows substantial paranoia. For instance, she tape records all of the conversations. She repeatedly asks, "Who were you texting? Are you with someone?" when she was on the live chat with Donnie. She objectifies. Donnie is regularly called by pet names such as baby reindeer, or nipple. We see what appears to be heated ignited fury on a number of occasions when she is challenged. For instance, gripping Donnie's arm in the cafe when he won't tell her who hurt him. When he threatens to expose her previous acts of stalking to the customer in the pub, she reacts with physical violence and shouting. When she finds that Donnie's with Terry in the pub, she reacts with verbal violence, racist and transphobic insults, along with physical violence towards Terry. She is massively deluded. She thinks she is in an actual relationship with Donnie and part of the show. She thinks she's far more attractive than she actually is. She believes that she's a hotshot lawyer. She thinks she is friends with famous people. She thinks she owns several expensive properties. It's very clear that she exhibits narcissistic traits, and there are a lot of narcissistic indicators as well. But does this get her over the line to be deemed a narcissist? With regard to emotional empathy, there are instances where she appears to exhibit emotional empathy, particularly in relation to how Donnie had been hurt by somebody else. But given the way that she otherwise treats him, might this just actually be cognitive empathy? With regard to the question of fuel, which is the lifeblood of the narcissist, she doesn't appear to need it. Yes, she's evidently enjoying the attention post the outing, but enjoying attention does not of itself make you a narcissist. Indeed, bearing in mind somebody who is clearly a loner and lonely, getting all of this attention as a consequence of the show, and also bearing in mind that she believes that Gad shouldn't be getting this attention because he's the abuser, it would feel somehow right to her that she gets this attention, and therefore she would revel in it. Nevertheless, hitherto, she hasn't demonstrated a reliance upon attention. For instance, when she posts on social media, and she does this frequently, she rarely gets any kind of response, but she posts and posts and posts, which suggests it's the act of having her say, being able to broadcast her views, that it's far more important than actually getting a response. She bombards Donnie with emails which he doesn't answer. She sends a deluge of voicemails to him, but he never answers her calls or rings her back. He never responds to the voicemails. She gets absolutely nothing from him, yet she keeps on doing it. A narcissist would not persist in such behavior where nothing was coming back from the victim. The narcissist would need a response to gain fuel. Yes, there might be thought fuel, but that's weak and ephemeral, and it certainly wouldn't sustain the pattern of behavior that is demonstrated in relation to Martha. The picture painted of Martha is of a loner, with no friends, no family, no colleagues. If Donnie was the intimate partner primary source, there would be a huge reliance on him. Yes, she does spend quite a bit of time attending the pub on him, but they don't live together. They don't spend much time outside of the pub either. He goes to the cafe with her. She turns up at his comedy event, but he didn't organise for that to happen between the two of them. In actual fact, the level of interaction that she has with Donnie wouldn't be sufficient of itself. The lack of responses online and the absence of proximate sources would mean that she would end up in a repeated fuel crisis, which, evidently, she was not. The Catatonia incident. Whilst this might have been a fuel crisis, it doesn't add up because it wasn't the case that she was chained to the bus stop and left on her own, unable to escape. A narcissist, put in such a situation, would eventually leave and go and seek fuel elsewhere. That incident is not something you would see from a narcissist in those circumstances. There are also instances where her control is threatened and she doesn't respond in a way that a narcissist would. For instance, when Donnie threatens her with the police at Liz's house, when Donnie lashes out in the pub after Martha attacks Terry, when he ends the relationship, when he goes to see her at the house. Her responses in those instances would not be the typical response to a proximate interaction between a narcissist and victim. It's certainly the case that Martha exhibits many narcissistic traits, that they're strong, and she has many narcissistic indicators. But she also exhibits certain behaviours which are not commensurate with being found to be a narcissist, and therefore we discount that outcome. Given that being a narcissist is not an outcome, but it is clear that Martha is mentally unwell, what then might she be? There are three key components to be considered. Number one, she is fixated on and obsessed with Donnie. She believes that they are in a relationship when they are not, and thereafter she behaves like a wronged ex-girlfriend, exhibiting hatred towards him, Keely and Terry, acting as if she has suffered the loss of a genuine relationship, that she is the wronged party, that she was in a relationship, but no more. The strength of her response is demonstrative of the power of the delusion that operated where she truly believed that they were in that relationship. 2. She is massively deluded in other respects outside of that relationship. 3. She exhibits episodic mood issues. For instance, when she is talking to Donnie in the pub, she's manic, speaking very quickly, laughing too loud, being larger than life. She does similar in the cafe. She shows a depressive, catatonic response at the bus stop. With regard to the first item, Martha shows an unshakable belief that Donnie is in love with her. I suspect this was also the basis of the stalking that went on in relation to what is referred to as the barrister. She's clearly infatuated with Donnie, believing that they are truly in a relationship. This is shown in the way, for instance, that how she talks to him, the content of the emails. She believes that they're boyfriend and girlfriend. She talks about having children. She firmly believes they have a relationship, yet this is entirely deluded. She interprets general kindness by him to mean something much more. This behaviour fits with erotomania. Erotomania is more common in women than men. It is more often seen in women who are sexually inexperienced, which is the clear impression given of Martha. The object of the delusion is usually a male who is unattainable due to high social or financial status, marriage, which might be the barrister, or lack of interest. This is possibly Donnie, as he's not romantically interested in her. This delusion and fixation explains why she believes they are in a romantic relationship, why she therefore keeps contacting him in an obsessive manner and stalking him, why she follows him, why she reacts so strongly when he ends the relationship, and why she continues to stalk him afterwards, even when she's getting little or no response, because her reaction is that of somebody who is genuinely hurt to the ending of a relationship and what she saw as a betrayal. However, this is not the end of the analysis. I mentioned two other aspects. Martha is massively deluded. Part of that delusion relates to the erotomania, but she is deluded with regard to her own looks, her intelligence, her achievements, the existence of a new boyfriend, the existence of friendships, her ability to counter the wrongs done to her, the level of work success and level of financial success, and property ownership. I see these various delusions as psychosis. Delusions are false beliefs which are strongly held, despite evidence to the contrary. Martha repeatedly demonstrates these false beliefs. There's no evidence of her hallucinating, but plenty of delusions, which clearly fit with the concept of psychosis. Alongside this, Martha clearly experiences mood symptoms of mania and depression. These are episodic in nature rather than continuous, as for example, she was able to talk to Liz at the cookery group quite normally, the customer in the pub who she was showing Donnie's comedy videos to. And also in the interview with Piers Morgan, she conversed with him normally without showing mania or depression. However, in her early interactions with Donnie, she presents as manic, speaking very quickly, with heightened energy levels, responding incongruously, appearing euphoric in certain responses to him. The catatonic incident at the bus stop demonstrates a depressive element. Her home environment also suggests depressive episodes where she's not motivated to maintain a suitable domestic environment. Martha exhibits abnormal thought processes through her psychosis, from her delusions, and an unstable mood, with regard to mania and depression. This results in a finding that Martha has schizoaffective disorder. I believe Martha actually does have the capacity for emotional empathy. It's clear that there are times she evidently cares about Donnie. However, the existence of her disorders reduces that emotional empathy, resulting in her fixations, her obsessions, harassment, and stalking. As I explained, she doesn't fit with being a narcissist, but does have numerous strong narcissistic traits and limited emotional empathy. I regard her narcissistic traits as too strong for a normal, and her level of emotional empathy too low for an empath or normal, meaning that the overall outcome in relation to Martha is that she is narcissistic with erotomania and schizoaffective disorder. There we have the conclusion. A considerable amount of work has gone into poring over the evidence to convey this to you, in terms of watching all of the episodes, of perusing newspaper articles, online commentary, going through social media postings on X and also Facebook. All of this takes a considerable amount of time and effort to bring these series to you, and should you wish to show your appreciation by way of super thanks, that would certainly be appreciated by me. Do you agree with this outcome? Let me know in the comments section. I'm HG Tudor. Thank you for listening.